Kung Fu Panda is a mixed one for me. As I will start by mentioning, there's really no sentimental bias, as this was my first time watching them all at length. I did see glimpses of the first one when I was younger, but nothing to make me attached or nostalgic about. And after all the hype around it with my friends, I just expected more, especially considering this was and is one of DreamWorks' crown jewels of IP. It just felt very underwhelming. Okay, this might sound like I'm already bashing these films already, but I really enjoyed each film. Do not get me wrong. Even the third that's a bit divisive with the public, I think it was still a good film. And it's almost as good as the first in my opinion. But yeah, at the end of the day, that's what this video is just going to be. It's just going to be my opinion of the first three films ahead of the release of the fourth one. And obviously starting with the first film.
What are you going to do, big guy? Sit on me?
And I'm just going to first off start with the animation for this film. And okay, I know at the time compared to other films against the competition, we got Wall-E by Pixar, and even DreamWorks themselves, they dropped like Shrek 3 a year prior. I cannot really remember how Shrek 3 looks like, to be honest, but I have to admit, with this film, Kung Fu Panda 1, the image quality is really, really good here. And even in terms of the animation, the people behind it, they just did a really good job with most of the scenes animated on here. The one in particular I'm going to really talk about that sticks out for me has to be the breakout scene of Tai Lung. It just felt really well done and felt super fluid. It had me watching it and I was just like, damn, it's just really good stuff. But yeah, I'll come back to the animation stuff in the second film, which I feel took a big jump. And onto the technical aspects that I really enjoyed. Like, I've seen a ton of videos and my friends always talking about the human, can I really call it the human aspects? But those part of the film. So ordinarily my expectations were really high. And I think I also shot myself in the foot with those high expectations, and that's honestly my fault. And I will come with the shortcomings, but I'm going to talk about the stuff I liked. First, the Teefu Tai Lung relationship was done really well, even though most of it was through flashbacks, which is a running theme with these films. Something I have an annoyance with about these films, like the villains must always be tying with the character's past. Can't you just have like a bad guy that is new or something? But yeah, I think it was good to see the Teefu Tai Lung relationship done that way though, and how Tai Lung changed from this like really good student that Teefu brought up to be this evil guy and just crushed him really and made him this grumpy old man, and even proceeded by the fights between them towards the end. You see like when Teefu is defeated and he tries to console Tai Lung. Oh my god, these names are so confusing. But yeah, the fight sequence when Teefu consoles Tai Lung, but you can see that he has already been broken by the betrayal, and it's just really well written stuff. And finally, like the part of the film that I originally had a problem with, but I then looked at it in a different view that just made me appreciate the film and love it way more, was the final fight between Po and Tai Lung. See, I know it's rubbish, Tai Lung losing that fight, but I feel like all these characters, the Furious Five and Tai Lung, these guys trained their entire life to become the best. But Po is just that guy with the dream, and he just loves this kung fu stuff. Obviously, he has aspects that make him like the chosen one in quotes, but like when you just grow up to love something and you have the chance to get the best training to do what you love, it's not guaranteed that you'll be good at it, but like it just has such a deep meaning. Po winning that fight, in the sense that Po is just someone having fun while fighting Tai Lung, while Tai Lung is channeling all his years of training and everything. And you just see it in the way Po fights. It's really great. It's dumb, but it's great. And that's a lesson for any of you watching that movie. Chase your dreams. You'll be really good at it. And yeah, also being the main character and also being the chosen one helps too. And I also just love how the following films just embrace how dumb that is.
It seems you have found inner peace at such a young age.
With Teefu always being mad that he learned something for years and Po just gets it after a few days. Overall, my main issue is I just feel this first film played it too safe. And I get it, it's a new IP and everything, but just amounted with everything feeling a bit too pedestrian. It's definitely great, as I mentioned, clearly not a bad film, and it has its moments, but at the end of the day, it's an introduction and it spends most of its time doing just that. And it feels like it rushes everything towards the end, which sort of takes away from the final Po and Tai Lung encounter. And this is just coming after I just praised that entire scene. But realistically, it's dumb, but it's expected as it's just a 90-minute film. But I did think Jack Black was great as voicing Po, and I also think Ian McShane was really good as Tai Lung. But I'll talk more about the voice actors in the second film, as I really didn't notice who was who till the credits pulled up. And I knew Angelina Jolie was in these films, but I just didn't know she was the tiger character. Then Kung Fu Pandas 2. See, DreamWorks have to be studied because every time they drop a sequel, they are always on their back. Like, how do they put it out every time? It's always quality with them. The main thing I just love about this second film is just the way he handles the truth about Po and where he came from, also keeping it somewhat ambiguous, and it just was the perfect move from them, and he made everything just tie in with the overarching story, and Po finding his inner peace compared to the next film on the franchise that just makes the same joke 10 billion times.
Adopted. I knew it. You knew? Well, who told you?
And I think it all just worked for its runtime. We got a teaser for his parents towards the end, which I feel like if this movie tried to shove down what the third film did in terms of like bringing his parents into the movie, like actually being in the film, apart from the cameo they got, it would have just defeated the entire purpose of this film about Po just accepting life and finding his inner peace. I just love that he just did all of that by himself, albeit he had like a little push from other people, but nonetheless it was just good and just made this film easily my favorite. And there's a bunch of other stuff I can dwell about, but I'll focus on some of the little things I just found fascinating, and also a tiny thing I was a bit annoyed of, starting with the hyena henchman. I just found it funny how this guy would just feel powerful every time he was with the peacock, Lord Shen or something, and the one time he stands up to her, he dies immediately. I think it's just really funny and works really well because there were times he was legit running from the Furious Five and just be with his boss and feel powerful and everything. And just the first time he feels this sense of power and wants to like stand up for himself, he just ends up being this weak bully. It's really funny. It's such a little thing that was done really well. And I also love how like when they were fighting with the dragon costume, I just love how synced up that was. And it's basically just them eating them up and pooping them out, and it's also them like literally fighting with them. I feel like that was done really cool, as well as the prison scene was also really nice when Po and Ox were just like messing with each other. That's also to commend the animation and everything. And one little thing I just found really weird was at the start when Po's adopted dad was like telling Po about his past. But wait, how didn't Po realize he was adopted though?
I mean, come on, Dad. But if you knew, why didn't you ever say anything? Why didn't you say anything?
But yeah, that flashback sequence with his dad explaining, I mean, like, I liked it visually. I thought it was cool, but like the voice acting there was atrocious in my opinion. It felt very robotic.
Brought you inside. Fed you. Gave you a bath.
I get it was also trying to tell a joke there, but it just didn't land and just didn't make me invested. But I think everything else about the movie I was a fan of. I think that's just the only thing I didn't like about the film. And on voice acting, I don't know, maybe it was just watching the first one before this and knowing who was who and just paying more attention here. I think Seth Rogen as Mantis is really good. Out of all the Furious Five, he's definitely my favorite. Then probably Lucy Liu as Viper. Do not really notice Jackie Chan and Angelina Jolie's voices though, especially Gary Oldman as Lord Shen. I thought like Lord Shen, the peacock villain, was a woman.
Look, I don't know who you are, but please stand aside, sir.
That's a lady.
Oh, sorry.
And I feel like that's a really big shame for the rest of them, because apart from Jack Black and Seth Rogen pulling out the weight, every other person in the first two films is just a bit underwhelming. And as far as the animation goes, it's just leaps and bounds better than the first. Most notably, the wetness of the sorry, I mean the characters when they are wet in the water. Now that still doesn't sound great, but you know what I'm talking about in that one scene. But altogether, this is a really good film in my opinion. Also helping that when I went into this film, I had like no expectations because I was a bit disappointed with the first one at the time. But that would just be the last time I underestimate DreamWorks for sequels. Then Kung Fu Panda 3. Sort of the bad egg here. I think enjoying the second film way more than the first, and also watching this film like right after the second film sort of like made it feel like this film was better than the first film. But then as I was thinking about it and writing the script for this, I'm like, not really. I think the Po backstory straight up does not work here. Like, I want to see his dad, especially after the teaser they gave us in the last one. Like, I'm excited to see the lore here, but it just really did not add up to anything. And I also feel like DreamWorks made the big mistake of making this film more I won't say child friendly, but it's more of a film for children. But I won't say like that's a bad thing, but like they just ruined something that was great. And this could have just been a really good film. I loved Kai in this, and I think out of the other three villains, he's my personal favorite. But like I found him very interesting. Also helping that J.K. Simmons, out of all the other voice actors for the villains, I think he completely crushed this in this. But I know I'm just positively talking about him now, and I'm also going to complain about the fact that it's always the same warrior out for revenge. But I like how they did it where it's similar to the first in the way that, wait, it's basically the first guy, but Oogway killed him. But that's like an El Oogway for killing his best friend and literally wiping his face from the existence of the earth. But it's basically the first guy, but with less screen on time. But I don't know, he is completely flawed, but I just liked him. And I think, as I mentioned, that's also just a great fact that the voice acting was phenomenal for him.
The Jade Slayer, Master of Pain. You may know me as the Beast of Vengeance, Maker of Widows. Okay, I used to work with Oogway.
But I don't know, he's completely flawed, but I don't know, I just like him. I think it's mainly just because J.K. Simmons, as I mentioned, just did an amazing work with voicing the character. But yeah, but overall for me, the third is a real nothing movie. It did not do enough as there is really little for me to grasp on and talk about. It just did burst of its job to entertain, which is a shame because I feel it did what it had to do sometimes. Well, not great, neither was it enough, but was quite okay to pull itself together for what it was, considering its close integration with the past films, especially the first film with the Oogway scenes. Was a bit annoyed with the final fight sequence being one that was just, I want all the power, but okay, here's my power. Oh no, I have too much power. It's just, I hate when movies do that. It's so lazy. But I still enjoyed myself watching this. And I just feel my expectation was, I won't say it was crazy high, but it was like, how would I put this? It was like, it wasn't high. I feel watching this with the second one back to back, it somewhat infected my viewing of it. So I rated it really, really highly. So I was like super satisfied while watching it immediately. And after stomaching what I saw a couple weeks after, I just feel like it's not as good as what I initially saw. Initially, I thought it was better than the first, but now I'm resonating more towards the first film and I'm liking the first film more. So like, I don't know how to explain what I'm just saying, but that's just the beautiful art of cinema. But yeah, that's just my opinion about the third film. It's such a weird movie.
Skadoosh!
Overall, the films are good, but why I label them as the confusing child of DreamWorks is just because I feel like I don't know their place in the DreamWorks catalog. It's not as low as, let me say, like a Madagascar. I love the Madagascar films though. But like, this is a hot take, but it's not as high as like the Shrek universe films or even the How to Train a Dragon films. I could throw a spanner in the works and say like it's not as good as Megamind or Flushed Away, but like those aren't franchises, so it's really hard to compare those. But I just do not know its place, as I mentioned, and I can definitely see the appeal from different people, but like I didn't hate it, but I didn't find it like crazy amazing. Overall, I think this film just ranged from it being alright to being amazing, and that's fine. I feel like out of three of them, even though the third one shot itself in the foot a lot, it's still an okay movie. It's still a fine film. If that's the worst film in the franchise, I hope the fourth one isn't bad, because this is what I said about Argyle, and Argyle turned out to be atrocious. But yeah, if that's the worst film in the franchise, I mean, it's not bad, you know? But yeah, that just wraps it up in my opinion about the first three Kung Fu Panda films. What do you think about the Kung Fu Panda films? And what's your favorite? I can't wait to watch the fourth one really soon. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, or you probably hated my opinion. That's fine. Regardless, I appreciate you watching the video till now, and hopefully I see you in another one. Peace.
It's me, oh, it's me, oh. I've never felt this way before. I don't wanna make mistakes no more.
That was my fist. Did I spit a little bit?
Spit is good.
I need some napkins.